Hello, my friends, and welcome to March. It's March 2nd. It is Monday. I hope you had a great weekend planned until you woke up on Saturday morning and found out that our sorry sack of shit president, who's an absolute psycho, started another war. It's like his 8th country that he has bombed, and one of my favorite posts, by the way, over the entire weekend and all of this was, even if you start a nuclear war, we will crawl out of the ashes as 7-legged mutants demanding the release of the Epstein files. Yes, you will not distract us. I have a great conversation with Jeff Jarvis on today's show, but we did it on Friday. We talked on Friday, and the bombings and invasion started on Saturday morning. So we didn't talk about any of that, but we did cover a lot. If you want to jump to the conversation and skip the amazing clip show I've put together, that's mostly what I've got for you today. Clips, reactions to the bombing of Iran, the assassination of their supreme leader, lots of clips, but my conversation with Jarvis begins at 41 minutes. Okay, I've got a few things I want to mention and read here, and then we'll jump to that very extensive clip show that I put together for you. Just want to thank you for being here. Say I hope that you will join us in Las Vegas at PodJam the 9th through the 12th. That is going to be a really important gathering. So many of us. Very important to connect in real life with people whenever you get the opportunity, and that will be an opportunity. Some of us want to look away from the news, and certainly over the weekend wanted to look away from this horror that has begun in our name, where we learned that at least 3 servicemen and women we don't know their gender, we don't know their names, where they were killed, have been killed in action. It's probably much higher than that. Seems there's some reporting that they're trying to play down what was probably a missile landing on a base somewhere. There were several injured. There are probably more dead. There will probably be more dead Americans, and that is just absolutely horrific. Because why? For what? Send your kids if you support this war. Send Barron if you want to keep starting wars. Send your own. I mean, I know that sounds kind of pithy, sarcastic, and unoriginal, but I've always felt that way. You support this war, you believe in this, go fight. Because only 21% of Americans, apparently, in one poll, support bombing Iran and regime change in Iran. We've already seen this show, many of us, most of us, and we do not want to see it again. Ibram X. Kendi tweets or posts on Threads announcing his war of regime change in Iran. Trump said to the Iranian people, "The hour of your freedom is at hand." Words from a president who has been snatching freedoms from the American people, a freedom taker, yet again presented himself as a freedom giver, precisely how authoritarians the world over commonly present their wars of conquest. Dean Obadala posted, "The United States desperately needs our own regime change." Yes, just a couple of quick comments there from some of my favorite follows on social media. But the most horrific headline and outcome so far of this war of choice by the U.S. and Israel is strike on girls' school kills 115. If, in fact, that many young girls died at a school that was destroyed, at least half of the school was destroyed, still not clear why it was hit or which country's forces had fired it. And a few more of the headlines here on Monday, March 2nd. Trump says Iran operation could take 4 weeks or less. 3 U.S. troops killed. BBC, months of planning behind U.S.-Israeli mission to target Iran's supreme leader. Of course, the bombings have roiled markets. Dow futures dropped nearly 600 points as oil prices spike following U.S. attack on Iran. A Saudi Aramco refinery has been hit. Iran security chief rejects U.S. talks. Oil soars amid Strait of Hormuz shipping fears as Iran war drives prices to nearly $80. The CIA helped pinpoint a gathering of Iranian leaders, then Israel struck. Iran conflict widens as Israel strikes Lebanon following Hezbollah attacks. War widens to include Iranian-backed militias as U.S. and Israel pound targets in Iran. France, Germany, UK open door to striking Iranian launchers. just a few of the several headlines that are in my news feed from a wide variety of sources here on Monday, March 2nd. And a reminder that I know you might want to look away, because waking up in America with a psycho as our president is waking up in his fever dream of a narcissistic, sociopathic quest for who knows what. And it's crazy. It's very, very hard emotionally and mentally. But you know what's harder is waking up to losing your child in a bombing. I can't imagine what that's like right now for those people in Iran, if that reporting is accurate, or for the families of the service members. And so it's easy to look away and distract ourselves with any number of things, and you can and you should, but please come back and stay connected to what is happening in our name. And please do whatever you can to stand up in your local community against it. That's what we try to do here in the stand-up community, however and whenever we can. So don't go away. Don't turn the channel or turn it off, as hard as it might be, because it's going to be harder if we don't do something to stop it. I can't imagine. It was like 9 cities in Iran that got bombed. Imagine if 9 cities in America, if we woke up and there were bombings or missiles striking those cities. We can't. I mean, I lived through 9/11, but even that wouldn't be like this, because this would be state-sponsored terrorism, another country attacking us this way. What would that mean if it were us? Would you want the world to look away, I guess, and especially when it's happening in our name? And so we can't. And so here we are, and I'm happy to have you here. And I've got a whole bunch of clips, because what I'm going to try to do, I've tried to figure out exactly how I can be most useful, instrumental, helpful, and kind of a public service in a way for you, and earn your ears and your paid subscription. And so I've decided in this case and these types of situations, I'm best at aggregating a whole variety of views. And that's what I've done for you so far, and that's what I'm going to continue to do here now on the Clip Show and on the show in general. I've got analysts, I've got senators, I've got commentators, decide what you want to call them, historians. And let's start with the historians. Let's do Timothy Snyder and Ruth Ben-Ghiat, their quick takes, or I should say a couple clips from their longer takes on what this means. They are, of course, historians, experts on authoritarian regimes. Let's start with Professor Tim Snyder, who is, as usual, taping his comments like under a highway or something. Here he is.
2 quick thoughts on Iran. The first is the announced American purposes don't make any sense. It's really hard to change a government. Missiles won't lead politics to go the way you want. Even a ground invasion won't lead politics to go the way you want. You have to have patience. You have to have policy instruments, exactly the kinds of policy instruments that we got rid of in the first weeks of the Trump administration. The purpose of getting rid of a nuclear program, that just seems to be based completely on lies. It seems more likely to me that insofar as there's a foreign policy here, it's the foreign policy of our Arab allies and our Israeli ally who have much more direct interests in Iran. I think insofar as this has to do with American politics, it's domestic politics, and in particular, the need to create some kind of foreign conflict so that Trump can say, well, we have to do special things around the elections. I honestly think it's as simple as that. This is not a war which is going to be won in any clear sense. I don't think this is not a war that's going to have some sort of clear outcome. I think rather its purpose is to create some kind of shadow under which we can say, or rather the Trump administration can say, aha, terrorism, aha, exceptional situation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We know this logic. We can be prepared for this logic. Journalists and especially judges should be prepared for this logic and not allowed to go through. There's something horrible, specifically horrible, about trying to undo democracy by carrying out a foreign war.
Yes, indeed. Good analysis from expert historian on authoritarianism, Tim Snyder. And here's another one, same lane, our friend Ruth Ben-Ghiat.
This comes at a moment in Trump's trajectory where the autocrats, if they're doing badly at home, they often become more imperialist. So there's that going on. And think about always what we're not talking about. We're not talking about Epstein. We're not talking about his tanking ratings. So there is a distraction element and deflection, and the Trump administration is very good at this. So we have Trump's hubris, which an expert at the Cato Institute pointed out. Trump's hubris, Netanyahu's expansionism, which the U.S. is helping. And they made it impossible. They gave Iran impossible demands so that this would force the hand. Impossible demands.
There you go. All right. Well, here's Heather Cox Richardson and her latest dispatch on YouTube with a little historical analysis and a few quotes. I thought this was very good. And as always, everybody loves Heather Cox Richardson.
The Constitution gives to Congress, not to the president, the power to declare war. After fighting for their independence against a king they considered a tyrant, the men of the Constitutional Convention were not about to hand the power of raising an army to a single man. One delegate commented that he never expected to hear in a republic a motion to empower the executive alone to declare war. Trump's attack on Iran also violates the Charter of the United Nations, under which members promise not to attack other states. This particular attack raises the specter of a larger war. In an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council today, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned that everything must be done to prevent a further escalation in the Middle East. Trump launched his attack while lawmakers were not scheduled to be in Washington, D.C. for a week, but Democrats are demanding Congress return immediately to vote on whether to continue military action against Iran. Senator Andy Kim, a Democrat of New Jersey, said in an interview, "This is one of the most dangerous efforts that Trump is undertaking in the second term, trying to normalize war without Congress, trying to normalize the idea that a president can do whatever they want when it comes to foreign policy." Huge though this is, there is a larger issue behind it. Since taking office again, Trump has gone out of his way to define tariffs, deportations, and so on as part of national security policy. The president is supposed to get Congress's buy-in to go to war, in part because that requirement forces an executive to convince the American people that a contemplated military action is worth their tax dollars and their lives. But Trump made little effort to explain his Iran attack to the American people, and they oppose it. Morris notes that support for attacking Iran has held fairly steady for months and remains so after the strikes, with 34% in favor of them and 44% opposed. This is incredibly low support for a foreign war, Morris writes.
All right. I cut it off there, but some great context and historical perspective from Heather Cox Richardson, who is also a historian. Now, here's Eric Prince. Eric Prince, of course, is the former head of Blackwater, a very corrupt guy, a Christian nationalist, all kinds of bad news. And he was on Steve Bannon's show, and guess what? He doesn't like it. He doesn't like this war.
I'm not happy about the whole thing. I don't think this was in America's interest. It's going to uncork a significant can of worms and chaos and destruction in Iran now. Who takes over? You still have tens, hundreds of thousands of IRGC people that will be positioning to be number two, to be the next rulers of that country. I don't see how this is in keeping with the president's MAGA commitment. I'm disappointed.
Yeah, well, he's not alone. Major figures associated with the Make America Great Again movement, including former Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, also Tucker Carlson, far-right conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, the infamous manosphere influencer Andrew Tate. Rolling Stone says all of them are fuming at Donald Trump over the military strikes against Iran that began overnight on Saturday. So that's not a terrible thing that they're not in lockstep with Trump. Many of those names have been critical of him on other things. So I think that's actually a good thing, isn't it? All right, let's move on to another foreign policy expert, Columbia University's Jeffrey Sachs, who used to join me regularly on the show. It's been a while, but here he was talking about this. I thought this is pretty impactful.
The U.S. has stepped into shit today, if I could put it bluntly, and we don't know what will transpire. Maybe they'll kill a lot of people in the next few days and declare a great success. Reportedly, they've killed 40 schoolgirls already in a bombing outside of Tehran. But there's no way that it can actually achieve strategic objectives in the long term. The United States itself is not stable enough to achieve that. Trump is a highly unpopular figure, of course, a profoundly depolarizing figure. His approval rating will fall for sure in the coming months, though sometimes with an attack it blips up. I don't even think that will happen here because the American public was steadfastly against this. We're entering our own elections in November that Trump may try to subvert because he is openly talking about federalizing or nationalizing the elections, which would mean massive fraud. So this is a very unstable. A trigger or a fuse, to say it better, a fuse was lit that will have consequences of war in many regions of the world.
There you go, Jeffrey Sachs. Now let's go to Zateo's YouTube feed where Mehdi Hassan was answering questions from his producers.
What evidence does a country have to show that an attack was imminent? It feels like USA and Israel, quote, say that an attack is imminent to back up their illegal attacks often, as we've seen before. So let's talk about the language of preemption and preventative strikes.
Yeah, it's a good question. We just run a piece at Zateo. If you're a Zateo subscriber, it's in your inbox from Alonso Gamundi, who's a law professor in the UK, making the point that this war is inherently completely illegal, just as the bombing last year was illegal. Under international law, under the UN Charter, which only allows the use of force in a case of self-defense or if it's been approved by the Security Council, neither of those count here. It's illegal under the US Constitution, which gives Congress the power to declare war. Think about this, Prem. Even George W. Bush and Dick Cheney went to Congress to get approval to attack Iraq. Trump has gone even beyond Bush, Cheney, and the neocons in terms of his unilateral aggression. This is a man who spoke in front of Congress 3 days ago, right? 3 days ago, he stands at the State of the Union and he gives a epically long and boring speech that you and I covered in real time, 1 hour, 48 minutes. And he didn't mention he was about to attack Iran. He didn't mention there was a threat to Americans from Iran. So he had a chance to tell people there's a war of self-defense coming. It wasn't a war of self-defense. Reuters are reporting today that this decision was made weeks ago, that they were going to do this. And if you plan to attack someone weeks in advance, by definition, they're not posing an imminent threat to you. And it's not self-defense. And all this bullshit, people in the mainstream media have been using the phrase preemptive war, using Israeli language. It is not a preemptive war. Preemptive war means someone's about to attack you, so you attack them first. There is zero evidence that Iran was about to attack anyone, that Iran has the kind of missiles that would allow it to attack the US, that it even has a nuclear weapons program. It doesn't. It always had a civil nuclear program, which the IAEA never said became a weapons program. Trump then bragged that he obliterated that program. It still says so on the White House website. So what nuclear threat were they trying to stop?
Yes, good questions. Lots of good questions and points. Now let's head over to The Atlantic's Ann Applebaum. And on this video, they put tense music behind it. But great points.
Donald Trump has launched a full-scale bombardment of Iran without the consent of Congress, without really making the case to the American people. But what disturbs me the most is that he has also launched it without a real plan for the Iranian people and for the emergence eventually of a legitimate Iranian state, which is determined by the will of the Iranian people and is run for the benefit of the people of Iran. Over the last more than 40 years now, we've had an Iranian regime that was fanatical, that tried to spread its totalitarian ideology around the world, that repressed its own people. We saw horrific coercion. We saw mass deaths only just a few weeks ago. That has also spent a huge amount of time seeking to divide and demean the opposition, which is now very divided between diaspora and domestic, between ethnic group-based movements and civil society movements, monarchists. There may be some elements of the regime, of the military, who dream of creating now a military dictatorship. All of that is very incoherent, and the policy of the Trump administration has not helped to make it more coherent. We don't have any tools to communicate with the Iranians, and we don't have any tools to help build a legitimate state. I'm very hopeful that the Iranians themselves will fill any vacuum that emerges, that there won't be a civil war. But it's disturbing that we have a U.S. administration whose policy seems to be bomb the country and then just see what happens next.
Yes, always worth listening to Ann Applebaum or reading her. And I loved what the mayor of New York had to say. Here is Zoran Mamdani yesterday.
Today's military strikes by the United States and Israel mark a catastrophic escalation in an illegal act of war, of aggression. Bombing cities, killing civilians, opening up a new theater of war. Americans do not want this. Americans do not want another war in pursuit of regime change. We want an answer to the affordability crisis. We want peace. Now, I may be a young mayor, but I am old enough to remember the devastating consequences of our country's pursuit of regime change in this same region not that many years ago. Now, my focus is on keeping New Yorkers safe. I've been in close contact with our police commissioner and emergency management officials. We are increasing agency coordination as well as patrols of sensitive locations out of an abundance of caution. And additionally, I want to speak directly to Iranian New Yorkers. You are a part of the fabric of this city. You are our students, our artists, our small business owners, our neighbors, our community leaders. You will be safe here.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes you feel good. Sounds like sound leadership. Hope he's right. And let's go to the senator from Connecticut, probably one of the most influential and well-spoken. It's Chris Murphy. He was on CBS's Face the Nation.
But it's no secret that this administration has no plan for the chaos that is unfolding right now in the Middle East. Those scenes that you showed at the beginning of the program are frightening. Violence is not contained just to the Middle East. It's spilling over into Pakistan and other parts of the world. And it's no secret that our allies in the region, with the exception of the right-wing government in Israel, had begged us not to take this action because they knew that the spillover, which is now looking like regional conflict, was the likely outcome. So again, what are we getting out of this? We're not getting regime change to a democracy. We're not going to eliminate their nuclear program. We are going to have regional war breaking out. It won't be the billionaire kids of Donald Trump and his buddies that die. It's going to be the children of middle class and poor families all across this country who are going to die for a war of choice, a war of vanity, an illegal war.
All right. Let's stay in the Senate and hear from Ruben Gallego, who is on Meet the Press.
We know what happened here. This was a BS reason for us to go to war. This president talked all the time about how he was going to keep us out of war, all the time. He also talked all the time about exposing, the pedophiles on the Epstein list. Coincidentally, that's also happening right now. This president talked about that. He talked about running to end wars and expose the pedophiles. Now he is starting wars and covering for pedophiles. And it's not a coincidence. I think that's all happening at the same time.
Yes, not a coincidence at all. A lot of folks are saying that. Here is the guy running for Senate in a Democratic primary in Maine, where he's way ahead of his opponent, the governor, Janet Mills. It's Graham Plattner, who fought in the Iraq War, and I like this clip a lot. Starts with him saying, I fought in Iraq, but I cut off the top, I think.
Fought in Iraq. We've been down this road before. I'm disgusted and horrified by the fact that we have done this. It's almost a little emotional for me. Here we are again, watching a presidency use military force and starting a war simply because it's going to, or they think it's going to increase their political chances. I mean, that's what this is. Donald Trump is flailing. All of it really brings me to a place of deep, I don't even want to say like anger. It's like a disappointment that here we are again, looking down the barrel of another stupid war that is likely going to have outcomes we cannot yet understand, all of which are going to be negative. And we're going to send young American men and women off to pay the cost, and we're going to visit an immense amount of violence upon civilians in Iran, all because Donald Trump wants to look like a tough guy. And it's utterly disgusting. And look, I'll just be up front. Any Democrat that supports this, I'm embarrassed to say that we're in the same party, because this is not something. I don't care what somebody's opinion on the Iranian government really is. Saddam Hussein was a bad guy. He was. I had to fight in the war that came about because we got rid of him. It wasn't worth it, and this won't be worth it either.
Indeed, it will not be worth it. It already is not. Okay, well, here's another guy running for president. It's the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. Here's what he had to say.
Well, it stems from weakness masquerading as strength. It stems from its complete failure of this administration, this historic president who's historically unpopular, that is trying to distract from his failures across the spectrum. He doubled down on stupid during the State of the Union. No course correction at all. And you're absolutely right. In 2011, and he didn't just say it once, he did videos condemning, criticizing President Obama, suggesting somehow he was going to do this, and it was a desperate attempt for his reelection. But you had Tulsi Gabbard out there saying regime change is wrong. You had J.D. Vance saying that they lied to you. He lied to you. So reckless is the only way to describe this. He didn't describe to the American people what the end game is here. He didn't describe the existential threat of the moment, the immediacy of the crisis at hand. There wasn't one. He manufactured it. And now we're manufacturing a crisis of outcomes unknown and the uncertainty it marks at this moment. And that's Donald Trump, the chaos president, this wrecking ball president across the board. Destruction is not strength. And once again, we've seen him destroy not only our allies in relationship to the rest of the world, but we're seeing him destroy any capacity to explain fundamentally what the core American interest is at this moment, to declare war, to go to war with a regime. And all of this is playing out in real time. And we just pray for our troops. We pray for our allies. And we pray that Donald Trump is temporary and his time is up in just 3 years.
All right. Well, there you go. Gavin Newsom. His lips to God's ears. Maybe sooner, right? And then, of course, there's the pilot fish, the chicken hawk. It's Lady G on Meet the Press. Senator Lindsey Graham, who never saw war. He didn't want to send your kids to fight. And this is a little bit of how it sounded.
As a member of the House, you voted to give former President George W. Bush approval to go to war with Iraq back in 2002. Does Congress now need to vote to approve this war with Iran?
No, I have no desire. I think the War Powers Act is unconstitutional. What are we doing here?
What's the difference? You voted to give George Bush authorization to go to war with Iraq.
Because he came and asked. He came and asked.
So does President Trump need to ask?
They wanted the authority. No, that's what I'm trying to tell you. This is a military operation designed to eliminate threats that have existed against our country. What are the threats? Ballistic missile programs that were getting bigger, not smaller, an effort to reestablish a nuclear program that could threaten us in the region, an effort to keep the proxy network alive that has American blood on its hands. He was justified doing this. Every president before him talked about doing it. Okay. He actually did it. He has the legal authority to do it, and these operations will continue until the threat is no longer there.
Thank you. Okay. The threat is no longer there. He is the worst. I'm sure you're upset after hearing that. Here is Mark Kelly, Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, who did fight, actually, in the wars in Iraq. I believe he bombed Iraq twice, I think, both in the Gulf War and in the war in Iraq in 2003. That began in 2003 with our invasion there. How did that go? Anywhere, far-right conspiracy, open-minded he seems, Senator Kelly, but here it is.
Khamenei being dead is a very positive thing for the region. But we have a lot of service members there, a lot of equities. We've got embassies all over the place. They have a large terrorist network. They've got the Houthis and Hamas that are in the region, Hezbollah. There are options that the Iranian regime, whoever comes next, has to target U.S. citizens.
Two more quick critical questions for you. If there is a war powers vote, Senator, will you be a yes?
Well, I'm going to have to take a close look at it. I want to hear from the White House what their strategy is going forward. I would say at this point it's rather unlikely that I would be. They went into this without any discussion with us ahead of time. And by the way, why on Tuesday, during the State of the Union, didn't the president make a case to the American people on why he is going to conduct an attack on Iran?
All right. Well, he wants to hear from the White House. He wants to wait to see. Doesn't he know? Based on everything we've already heard today in today's clip show, I mean, He has access to his own clip show and his own experience. So I didn't love that. Here is Congresswoman Representative Anna Paulina Luna. She's a real loon, but she was on MS Now. Give her credit for going into the hornet's nest to be taken apart just as she.
Again, it is not the intention of the U.S. government to invade. That is not what is happening. These are isolated, strategic, large-scale attacks. But again, there are negotiations that will take place, or at least open communication with the White House as soon as the president decides that he is willing or ready to talk. And that has developed in the last couple of hours. So that update will come hopefully later on this evening.
I'm sorry, you say it's not the intention of the U.S. government to invade? Did we not just invade?
We are not invading. Are you seeing boots on the ground there? Because I'm not. And I've been told directly by the State Department and the White House that that's not the intention.
I mean, we just killed the leader of the country. That's not... Okay.
Targeted strategic military strikes and invasions are two totally different things, according to military terminology.
They're calling it a war. The president has called it a war.
And targeted airstrikes
strategic strikes. And according to the White House, and I just talked to them and talked to the Secretary of State, strategic strikes are not war.
Really? So if someone bombed America,
do you see boots on the ground?
War? That makes no sense. So you're saying it has to be boots on the ground?
According to your own definition,
so that's your standard.
The regime of Iran has killed thousands of Americans and murdered them. So by definition, they've already declared war on the United States.
I've had.
All right. Thank you. So that is one of the talking points and arguments we're going to hear. It's just that it's targeted strikes. Well, how targeted were they? Killed over 100 girls, apparently. I mean, awful. Just absolutely horrific. But that is the argument that we're going to hear. Here is General David Petraeus, who has not wrapped himself in glory and whose analysis should be questioned, I think, based on his performance that everybody else, a lot of people give him great grades for his performance in the Iraq War. I don't. I actually don't. I can make the argument. But here he is nonetheless.
I'm not sure you can do, though, is bring about regime change. And, of course, that's the other element of this, where President Trump said that help was on the way when the demonstrators were on the streets back before the Iranian regime just flat crushed them. I think we'll hear ultimately that there are at least 15,000 Iranians killed in those demonstrations. Again, these are not forces like the Egyptian military in Tahrir Square that said, you know what, we're not going to shoot our own people. Mubarak's going under the bus anyway. We'll see who comes out after this. We don't like him. We know what to do. No, this is a regime that is enormous. It's not just the police, which are very robust. The regime protection forces, essentially, the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, Army, Navy, Air Force, and so forth. They have a besieged militia with national headquarters, provincial, district, municipality. And these are hundreds of thousands, maybe over 1 million, essentially thugs, pipe swingers. They'll shoot the people. And we don't see the cracks yet. You know, there's no Yeltsin figure or other figure in some of these previous situations who steps away from the regime and has the capacity to bring others with him. And you have the son of the Shah, he's a bit of a rallying figure in a way. His name is, but it's really because anything but this regime. And so that becomes a bit of a surrogate for that.
All right. There you go. There's Petraeus. And I don't know, make of it what you will. Here is, speaking of make of it what you will, I don't love this from Rachel Maddow. I just don't love it. This is the thing I don't love, that she spins a narrative that is very possible. It gives you something to think about, but it really should be presented as an op-ed, as opining. And I just feel like she presents it as fact in her dramatic performance, and she's just, connecting the dots. I just don't love it, but it really, a lot of people watched it, and I wanted to play it with that criticism in mind. That's how I see it, but maybe you disagree, and I would love to talk with you about it. Here she goes.
So why is it? Maybe it's for oil, as the president daydreams himself into another 19th century war fantasy of conquering some foreign land he doesn't understand or care about, but he would like to rob them of their land and easily become a new colony in an empire helmed by an American emperor. Maybe that's what he thinks. But as this now becomes the 7th country Trump has bombed just since being back in office for 1 year, cui bono? Who benefits? seems like a disturbingly easy question to answer. Why has the U.S. government been pushed in this direction? Follow the money. Why is Donald Trump willing to let that happen? Well, with this president, sadly, we keep learning over and over and over again that the easiest answer is almost always the truest one. He does not play four-dimensional chess. There's just him and what we know he's like, right? This president appears to have grown his enormous and excitable new appetite for military intervention in just this 1 year back in office. Apparently because he just thinks war is easy. It's exciting. It earns him not only close attention, but even occasionally plaudits from the very serious people who are professionally inclined to believe that there's some rationale, some strategery, some good thinking behind the start of every war, particularly in the Middle East. Starting a war, launching airstrikes, doing this sort of thing, it gets him a ton of attention. He gets to do it unilaterally, he contends. Naturally, there's no question that he would seek a declaration of war from Congress or even an authorization for the use of military force. He sees war as something he gets to do on his own say-so in a baseball hat from home that is exciting, that is controversial, that is all about him, and not for nothing, it's the world's greatest change of subject.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's over-dramatized, I feel. It's just very dramatic in her performance. I guess that's good. We should all take those long dramatic pauses that Rush Limbaugh perfected while he's putting together some theory that is supposed to sink into your mind and make you feel that he is the most brilliant person in the world. All right. Well, those are the clips that I've gathered for you today. That's what I've got. What do you think? Was it as robust and comprehensive as you would like? How many of those clips had you already heard? I hope it was worth it. That's what I decided to focus on today because there was so much happening over the weekend. I wanted to give you as much analysis as I can, and I want you to turn to this show when these things happen because that's what I'll do. I'll try to gather as much as I can as opposed to being pinned into just a few different points of view on something. There you go. All right. Finally, I like to end with some laughs. And Saturday Night Live was live over the weekend. So here is Colin Jost and Michael Che with the Weekend Update jokes.
Well, guys, I'm starting to worry that President Trump might not win that peace prize. After launching a massive military strike against Iran, Trump announced hours ago that they officially killed the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, and replaced him with, oh my God, the guy from Venezuela? This attack might be a bad idea. I don't know. I'm not really an expert on Iran. So let's hear from someone who can explain why we might have done it.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective.
Yeah. See, now that's the Trump I voted for.
Detractors on CNN are saying that Trump had no authorization for this war, but he actually did. Netanyahu said it was okay. I can't believe our leader could just attack Iran with no vote, no permission from Congress or anything. I mean, what is this, Iran?
President Trump's State of the Union address this week was the longest in history, lasting almost 2 full diapers. During the State of the Union address, President Trump said, "Our nation is back, bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Same," said the measles.
The U.S. women's hockey team turned down President Trump's invitation to attend the State of the Union. Yes. You clapped, but that only made Trump want them more. Trump angrily claimed that Minnesota has been ransacked by Somali pirates, but that's only because Trump's kind of an R word.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the former prince and current river corpse, has been arrested and now may be banned from ever taking the throne. In fact, the royal family said the only way he can become king is if it comes down to either him or Meghan.
Hillary Clinton testified this week and said she's confident that Bill Clinton had no knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, though there is an outside chance that Hillary sometimes doesn't know what her husband is up to. It was reported that Jeffrey Epstein hid photographs in secret storage lockers across the country. But I guess he had to take a lot of pictures because kids grow up so fast. What is this, Iran?
Researchers have developed a new nasal spray vaccine that can protect people against the flu, COVID, and other respiratory diseases. But to get it approved by RFK, they're calling it shark testicle creatine.
During a Black History Month event at the White House, President Trump defended himself from criticism that he is racist by listing his black friends, including Nicki Minaj, Jim Brown, and Mike Tyson. Wow, that's two more than you, Colin.
All right, there you go. Hopefully you had some laughs there after all that dramatic analysis about a whole entire war. And now it's time to get to my conversation with Jeff Jarvis. We sat down on Friday. You can watch this on YouTube. We were live on Friday afternoon, but we did not have this horrific news and war that we started, this war of choice, to discuss. We covered a lot of other things I think that are very relevant, some of which are undercovered. It's always great to talk to Jarvis, who had a health scare, a little bit of a slip and fall that led to a deeper health scare, and we caught up quickly about that. Very grateful that he's okay. He's been a great friend and a regular guest here on the show. We always love when Jarvis joins us. He is now a professor out at Stony Brook University. He is a journalism professor, and he has written several books, had very many high-profile jobs as a television and cultural critic. And obviously, he's very righteous when it comes to, I believe, anti-sexism and anti-racism. He's one of the smart white old guys, in my opinion, and I love that for him. You should listen to him on any number of podcasts that he is on. Go read The Buzz Machine. Get his books. Let's do it right now with one of our favorites, our good friend, Jeff Jarvis from Friday. Been way too long. He was the first guest I talked to after my parents' accident, and we had a great conversation, and then he had an accident, and now you are, I don't know why I'm talking about you like you're not sitting there. You've gone through all kinds of shit, so I'm happy you're doing.
It was all preventable. It was stupid. So I was stripping. I was stripping the bed to put the sheets in the laundry, which is a virtuous thing to do. And I lost a test of strength with a too well tucked in blanket. My bare feet flipped out from underneath me. I went up and I went down like a cartoon character on my back on the floor. And I cursed wildly, but I functioned. I went to my dentist appointment that Wednesday. This was a Sunday. And then by the end of the week, I was in miserable pain and I fell off the bed and I was taken by ambulance to hospital because I had a blood infection too, because of the dentist appointment. And then it also went into my spine. And so I'm pathetic.
I don't like the way you're talking. I don't like the way you're positioning any of this. First of all, none of that could have been prevented. What were we going to have your assistant?
I could have more carefully taken the sheets down. No. I was trying to be in a rush. I was trying to be
okay. I mean, what kind of a way to think is like, I would have, I hope you're joking. Like, if only I had been, don't rethink that. Don't live in the past. Like, be aggressive when you take those sheets off, or hire an assistant, hire a servant. Why don't you have a servant? You're Jeff Jarvis. Someone should be removing the sheets for you.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, by the way, in the chat, my friend Rachel says, changing sheets and a dentist appointment, that is a huge flex on Pete. That's true. I don't know that I could do either of those, much as both in 1 week. That's a lot of heavy lifting right there. Well, I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad to see you.
I'm doing well. As I told Pete, I'm now in preparation for the Olympics and mall walking. I take my cane.
Do you see other mall walkers
around?
You and the other mall walkers, you got a cane there for a little while. Do you recognize the other mall walkers? You making friends? You meeting people?
No. But you recognize their outfits. I have a certain look. They're not there to shop. They're not going anywhere. They're just going.
It's something you do during the winter in the Northeast. You want to walk, and it's too cold, and right now too snowy. How did you, with all these injuries, how did you weather this storm? I mean, who shoveled your walk?
We hired someone, and then I felt terribly guilty when my wife did the next bit. Mm-hmm. But I can't do that now.
She got out there and
you as a now single, as a batch.
Yeah, I'm a batch.
I would have been just completely screwed without my wife.
Yeah.
I would have been nowhere. Because I couldn't bend. I couldn't pick anything up. There's all kinds of things I couldn't, how would I have eaten? How would I have done anything?
Well, that's how I have been since I got separated. All the responsibilities that my ex-wife had, now I don't eat. That's why I'm in such amazing shape. But I did shovel the walk, and I went over to the house and did that for her and for my daughter. And I also usually spend the day helping somebody else out, which I did. Because speaking of virtuous, that feels, I'm in good shape. I can do it. I didn't, it was heavy snow though. They called it heart attack snow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have a guy who does the driveway.
Yeah.
I
bet you he's undocumented.
Probably.
Let's get to that real quick. This is continuing to happen, the immigration fights, and they continue to blame everything on undocumented people, whether it's violence or voting. They continue to scapegoat, and I think it's backfiring. I think it's backfiring bad. Republicans and the Trump administration have lost tremendous amount of support because of their heavy-handed tactics, not only amongst most of us, but amongst Hispanic Americans who he had a surprisingly large amount of support for. So that's not going well, at least, right? Like nothing seems to be going well. Nobody watched that State of the Union, and anybody who didn't come away with it like, oh, now I feel inspired by his plans for the country. He should go on tour.
Yeah, but I got a different theory. Oh. I think they knew that they were governing from the minority. From the rabid, wacky extremist minority. They knew that they were going to lose at some point, and they want to accomplish every dastardly, horrible, odious thing they can do in the meantime. The first time around, they saw it, I think, as a wasted opportunity. And now, with the likes of Stephen Miller and Project 2025, they're just doing every horrible thing they can imagine. It gets to trivial. Having Melania run a Security Council meeting. I mean,
what? I don't know about that.
Yes. Oh, yeah, they're doing that.
What?
And as a way to say, you don't matter, UN. You don't matter, Security Council. This is what we think of all you. We're sending Melania, which is also a commentary on her that she does that, but we know she has no self-respect because she's married to that schmuck. But they just wake up every day and say, what can we destroy today? What can we do today? And so my theory is that inside the White House, Stephen Miller doesn't give a crap about polls. They knew that they're going to lose the midterms, at least in the House. So they use the first 2 years to do everything they can. They have a Supreme Court for a generation. The Congress is scared to death, so that nothing's going to come through, and he'll veto anything that they don't like. So they got 4 years to fuck up the country, and they're doing it.
And they're doing
rapid pace.
A lot of damage, and we need to acknowledge the damage that you're doing and accept it, but don't we also need to acknowledge and accept the fight that we are seeing?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I feel very
inspired. We've got to defend the people
who
are starting with, but they needed enemies, right? So they make enemies out of nowhere. You can't, we've talked about this before, you can't really do black people because some of them voted for them and it's been done. You can't really do the Jews because it's been done. You can do women to an extent, but that's tough. So immigrants were easy. Brown-skinned immigrants, that was the easy target. And trans kids, which came along kind of out of nowhere. So they had to make enemies. It doesn't matter. They don't have
Which is not to say they don't still have a target on women, black folks.
They do. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they absolutely do.
LGBT. The trans people are the enemy too, because they're really terrifying.
Yes.
They're really, a major threat to our girls' sports. By the way, save girls' sports, protect girls' sports is the rallying cry against trans women in sports, but they don't seem to care about the women's hockey team. Like they care about one thing with women's sports, but not the vast majority of things like pay equity or just, treating them fairly or not making jokes at the gold medalist team expense. What do you make of Kash Patel in that locker room? What do you make of Trump calling? What do you make of these men's hockey players that keep stepping on their own dicks every day, it seems? Like, apologize and stop acting like they don't have choices or agency.
Kash Patel is just shriveled dick. He's an awful human being. He's terrible.
Wow.
And we know that. And he acted like an idiot, but we know that. The women's hockey team is great. I'm trying to find now. I don't think we can play the video, but Hillary Knight from the women's hockey team did a great talk on TikTok and just saying, screw you all. We don't care. Women's hockey has won far more than men's hockey all these years. We don't need you. We're fine. And then along came, who was it, for the men's hockey team, who at least was Austin Matthews, came along with a mea culpa. Like, I deeply regret accepting the White House invitation, he said.
Oh, really? Okay, good.
It turned the entire men's hockey team into a joke. As the team captain, I truly admire the women's hockey team, their courage for refusing to attend. So at some level, it came back around. It was a humiliation. And the other thing is, the women's hockey team do it for the love. The men's hockey team are pros. They do it for the money. And I think there's a big difference there.
A disparity in the behavior as well. Like, it shows in the maturity and the goals and the also there's the whole Canada rivalry thing too. They made an AI of one of the star hockey players trashing Canada. He didn't say it, and then they shared it. The White House, I think, shared a video of a player saying trashing Canada, and he plays with and against Canadians. It's really bad. And that guy, it's like your fault for being a MAGA in the first place. You can kiss their ass. They're not going to necessarily return that favor. They trashed the guy with a fake video.
Well, they had a fake video of Trump scoring the goal and beating up Canadians.
I saw that. That was good.
Is this going too far, Pete, to wonder whether some of the macho behavior of the men's team is trying to overcompensate for heated rivalry?
Oh, that's great. I don't think there's a correlation, but it's fun to think about. And speaking of this issue, I want to give you the opportunity and the platform to rant and rave about Scott Galloway. And I think because he's positioned himself as a champion for men, I think he's done a decent job, like other people, at diagnosing some of the problems. It's the solutions that he offers, but even some of the problems that he diagnoses, I think he diagnoses them wrong. But you are one of his biggest critics, so go ahead. What
he just drives me batshit. He just drives me crazy. He's an attention hog, and here we are doing this. Not that I don't like it too. The first time I happened to be with him when his first time, I think, on TV on Stephanie Ruhl's daytime show back in the day. And I could see it was like they plugged the coax into his veins.
Loves it.
He just loved it. He went nuts for it. And so you see that to this day. He will say anything to get on TV and get attention. Now, I knew him before that because he attended a conference I used to go to called DLD in Munich. And he had a standard shtick. He would get up and I'm going to do 200 slides in 4 minutes. And he did all kinds of glib lines, and he does that in that delivery that he does. And he was entertaining, and he was often wrong. He made predictions. Now he comes out as if he's this great spokesperson for manhood. And frankly, Pete, you are a far better spokesperson for what men should be. And I say that seriously. You've talked about that. That's when we first met on MSNBC. You talked about that in a serious, heartfelt way. He does it in a creepy way. Where he's all concerned about the sex lives of young people and about how boys basically need to get laid more, and they need to get their act together so they get laid. That's the point.
And need to drink more. They stop drinking.
He's just a creep to me. Yeah. And he will say anything to get attention. Yeah. The other day he said he thought it was just disgusting for men to be in the delivery room with their wives.
That's weird.
And he's doing that so he'll get quoted. So he'll do what I just did. I just can't stand him. And so when he or Jonathan Haidt's another one, Jordan Peters, the Canadian.
Jordan Peterson. Get it right.
Peterson, thank you. Get
it right, please.
If I'm going to insult him, at least get it right. I can't stand them. I just can't stand them.
Yeah, I don't like a lot of them.
They don't speak for me as men.
I agree. I appreciate the kind things you said about me. It's fashioning yourself an expert when you're not is dangerous. And also, there's still a lot that remains to be researched about what are the causes and effects of the issues that we're dealing with around men and boys and gender and identity in the U.S., much less anywhere else, and how we can all be better. So it's I think helpful to kind of stay humble and modest about this issue as we try to navigate it and stop acting like all of the answers all the time.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And also it's modeling behavior. I mean, you mentioned what I've done. I don't like analyze necessarily the issue as much as I just be vulnerable. So I try to role model a certain type of behavior that I think that men and boys that I was role modeled for me by a lot of people who I look up to, and in hopes that will work. And I am by far filled with fault.
Well, and that's the thing about what you do. You start with acknowledging those faults. You start with acknowledging that weakness, that responsibility. He does the opposite. He knows it all, tells everybody what to do. Yeah. And you're a fool if you don't listen to him.
I want to speak more to the men who are middle-aged, separated or divorced, not necessarily in the same exact situation as I am, but in that their wives were the ones who ended the marriage. There's millions of us, and I think most of the guys in my category whose wives wanted to end their marriages never tell a soul if they can control the message that it was their wives. Like the ego of your wife of 20 years dumping you. It's not like getting dumped by your girlfriend of a year or 2 years. When your wife, and I'm shortening my version of what happened in my life, but breaks up with you, dumps you, that's a hard thing to deal with, much less talk about. So I really want to focus on that kind of demographic, that cohort of men who have a hard time rebounding and ended up too often with a bottle of whiskey and a bullet.
Or even those who are still in marriages who feel rejected after the years, who don't know what to do and don't know how to cope or don't know how to change the relationship.
All
the
those
relationships
guys.
change
Let's
fundamentally.
Talk. Let's talk, gents. All right, let's get to two issues that you really are an expert on and can speak to. And most importantly, or rather most recently, I guess, is the news that Netflix is walking away from buying the massive Warner Brothers empire, which basically lays out only one other bidder, and that is Larry Ellison and his empire now owning Paramount. And what does that mean for brands and networks like CNN and HBO? But first of all, kind of what happened? Netflix seemed to have had this tied up. So much pressure from the White House, the administration itself, which there never, ever, we should say, should be really involvement. Although the government should play a role in antitrust, right? Well, what do you think about why Netflix didn't make the deal, didn't try to outbid, in this case, Larry Ellison's company?
I think Netflix spoke honestly when they said, we saw a price at which it was worth it. And we did that price. In the process, they cost Warner Brothers, they cost Paramount more, right? They raised the bidding and raised the price. So it was sport to an extent. And they got a breakup fee from Paramount, paid for by Paramount, of $3 billion. So I think Netflix's view is, if we can get it for this price that we've calculated, and by the way, we're not going to take the channels, so there was no CNN in the deal. CNN was going to be put out on an ice flow like MS Now on Versant. So they just wanted the entertainment part. It was complementary to what they're doing. If they could get it for a certain price, they said fine. When Paramount, came along and offered more, Netflix just said no. That was it. And democracy is all the more fucked as a result. Because now Barry Weiss presumably will be in charge of CNN, and we've seen what she's done to CBS. Pardon me?
Presumably. I mean, how sure?
Presumably. It's not said yet, but I think if it's not Barry Weiss, it's a Barry Weiss look-alike, sound-alike, act-alike. It's going to be someone like that the Ellisons put in. Could be Scott Jennings, for God's sakes, in charge of it. Who knows?
Ooh, sounds good.
And CNN's going to be completely ruined. And not that CNN has been a paragon of brilliance in recent times, because they've been acting scared in the face of this. I was on twice to say what the employees there couldn't say about this very story. The last time I was on doing this, Scott Jennings, as soon as I said, you're in danger here of this network being taken over by the Ellisons, he gave a look to the camera, a sly look like I'm going to be in charge.
I shared that yesterday. You shared that on social media. I read
yeah. And he is. And so that's what CNN is going to represent now. And I watch MS Now so much that I can even say that without having to pause and realize it's not MSNBC. But they don't have the reporting crew that CNN has. They had NBC, which wasn't huge, but that's gone now too. So CNN is where we did go when big news happens. If there's a war, God help us, with Iran, we would go to CNN because they have the people around the world. I'm not going to trust them at all anymore. And there are going to be a lot of people fired because they seem dangerous to Trump. There are going to be people who will leave for conscience over career. And there's just going to be downsizing all over. And so CNN is ruined. Now, I've said this with you before, Pete, and I say it all the time. To my mind, mass media is just dead. It's walking dead, but it's dead. And this is just another nail in the coffin of it. I've talked with you about how I don't think liberals trust the New York Times anymore. The Washington Post has been absolutely devastated. CNN is now going to be torn apart. What do we have? I mean, MS Now I do count on for some perspective.
What do we have left is a different question than what do we have, right? Because the rise of independent media, and we can name some of the different outlets that are actually doing journalism. You give Don Lemon credit. which is hard for me because I'm not a huge Don Lemon fan, but for the journalism that he's been doing. But there's so many others, specifically
Acosta,
Jim Acosta,
Katie Couric built a whole business.
What's his name? Roger Sullenberger, who is that his name, on Substack, broke the story that there were 50 pages missing in the Epstein files that dealt with Trump's allegations accuser. It was him on his Substack. It's Judd
Right.
Regum
It was independent journalism.
on his
So
Substack.
where I end up here is I don't mourn as much as you might think I would, because I've finally come, after having devoted my life and career to the institutions of mass media, I give up on them. We are not here to save them. We are not here to fix them. We are here to replace them.
What do you think of the question that my friend Kim asks in the chat, but that I often wonder myself? Why are there no, quote, good rich people starting their own and hiring these good journalists? I mean, there are certain nonprofits where a lot of wealthy people give money to, and that includes, I think, NPR and PBS, as well as ProPublica, the Estates. What's that nonprofit, States Newsroom? I gotta go support them and talk more about them, but go ahead.
So I was on with another podcast talking about media with Julie Roginski and Michelle Kitty earlier today.
How dare you?
And we were talking about the problem that the left has, that they seem more tied to the presumptions of old mass media, of its scale, of its presumed power and prestige. They haven't recognized that it's gone. Whereas on the right, they come along and for not much money, you can fund Turning Point, or you can fund PragerU,
right,
or you can fund all of these things. And no, it's not as big as Walter Cronkite. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It infiltrates the society and public discourse at a level that the right understands is useful. It's bottom up. It's guerrilla media tactics. And that's what the right has gotten, and the left hasn't understood that.
In terms of the purchase of Warner Brothers by Ellison's, what's it, Skydance? Is that his company, his name?
Yeah, officially. Skydance Paramount now.
Is it definitely going to happen? And if so, when? And when do we start to see, major changes, if you think?
It's not done yet, because there still has to be, I presume there has to be a shareholder approval of the deal. I don't have any share. I used to work at Time Inc., which was Time Warner, which was AOL Time Warner, which was AT&T Warner, which was now Warner Discovery. And by the way, it's a point I texted about earlier this morning. Warner is the CUNY Corp. Every company that absorbs it is poisoned. Time Inc., AOL, AT&T, Discovery. They all got killed practically by their association with Warner. You add to this the fact that the Ellisons are taking on a huge amount of debt, and Oracle isn't as healthy as one would think because it has issues. I think in the long run, it's going to be a terrible business decision. They're buying dead properties. It's not going to – the old media days are over, but they're going to do it, and they're going to do damage when they have it, and they're going to use it to make friends with the now president. So it's going to take a little while. Obviously, that can be a slightest problem when it comes to antitrust, though there should be, but that's gone. So it'll sail through any necessary government approval, and I don't know exactly how quickly it'll happen, but I think we're going to see the chill is already on. Who's going to book me on CNN now? Nobody. Not going to happen because nobody wants to lose their job. Who's going to stop them from doing that? Because this guy criticizes the Ellisons. Are you kidding me? No. So the chill's it's in the deep freeze right now. The question I have is, what happens if you're someone like Anderson Cooper, who left 60 Minutes, which was a hell of a gig, very prestigious, I'm sure, yet more money in the piggy bank. Now he's stuck with the same bosses. What does he do? What do you think happens?
I don't know. I have no idea. I really don't. I think that there's so much up in the air. I think that they do what they think is going to make the most money and try to position themselves in a lane that they think they can get the most viewers and clicks and so on. But I also think that the way that things work with algorithms and social media and news in general is the people that get the most clicks and make the most money are the ones who are the most hyperbolic, the ones who have the best thumbnails, the ones who have the most clickbaity messages and titles. So, I mean, you know that as well as I do. So I think that it's never supposed to have been, it's supposed to be a loss leader for profit. But the more that we do things that try to get us attention and subscriptions and ads and so on, I mean, I've never been really good at that, and I don't feel, my conscience doesn't feel good about doing that. So that combination of things means it's hard for me. And I want to talk about the most important issues with smart people with nuanced, thoughtful conversation. But that is not going to support a major media empire, much less a small staff.
But the days of the major media empire are over. It's back to what you were saying before. It's independent media, a whole bunch of independent media.
But look at Midas Touch.
Right.
Look at the biggest progressive outlets and what they are doing. I mean, I think Zeteo is a lot better than Midas Touch along those lines, but Midas Touch has to do a lot of those things, and be, very, controversial and hyperbolic about it. And, using comedy, obviously, and being entertaining helps. So, I think to get a critical mass so that you can support a staff of 5 or 10, much less hundreds or thousands. And where does the international reporting come from? Where does the reporting come from that does not get those clicks? The local reporting on the city hall or the Department of Education or, pollution and environmental issues. And so yet I'm arguing against myself when there are smart people, not a lot of space for them, but doing great reporting on things like climate.
There are, and one thing that we should be aware of, cognizant of in this new independent media world is that we're part of a larger ecosystem, and that we've got to be more collaborative. That you want to go to climate watch sites and link to them and quote them and share with them. And if you want to cover Ukraine, use Kiev Post, which does brilliant reporting by people who are Ukrainian, who understand the culture and understand the politics and the geography far better than an American who helicopters in. And I think internationally, country after country, you find the people who are in situ. And there's podcasters and there's newsletter authors in those countries. And I think there's ways to build looser networks of those independent folks across the world.
Great points. By the way, Heated with Emily Atkin is one of the best independent climate reporters, and she's just added a former CBS producer who reported on climate to her outfit. So Heated with Emily Atkin, look it up. Anyway, the other thing, creating those networks that you mentioned is an important thing to do, but my concern, and I'm seeing this with some of my, quote, progressive content creator influencer friends, is that they're becoming conspiracy theorists. They don't care about the truth, which used to be something that it was almost entirely on the right. But I'm seeing that a lot on the left. I mean, I'm seeing smart people touting some uncorroborated reports about people who we already know are bad. If you know somebody raped 10 women or murdered 10 people, you don't need to lie about 2 others. And what they're specifically lying about is some of this Epstein stuff and the cannibalism bullshit. I don't know if you paid attention to that. There's some people with huge followings reporting that as fact. And they're on the left. They're progressives. They're Trump haters. And that needs to be called out and needs to be nipped in the bud by those of us who might not have as much of a following. And when you do that, do they come after you? All their supporters start calling you a pedophile or whatever. I'm like, no, listen, there's no evidence that Jeffrey Epstein ate children. Oh, well, then you must be a pedophile. Watch out for this guy. He's a pedophile. I'm like, what are we doing? We can't do that. We can't do that.
I know. And at the same time now, if you go, I'm still on Facebook. People wonder why, but I watch them all. And now I can't trust. There's a certain kind of post. It's a certain long post. And it's appeared recently, and it's got to be AI. Oftentimes it's a heartwarming story. Sometimes it's a nasty story, but there's a certain length to it. And you don't know who's putting up what and what you can believe actually came from a human being too. Which is an issue.
Yeah, we got to find ways to root that out as much as possible. So often people now are creating AI videos of things that someone might say. I saw something that Michael Jordan, they made an AI video of Michael Jordan touting the leadership of former NBA player Tim, what's his name, from the Spurs. And it was this whole long video, and I was like, I don't think this is real, but it sounded exactly like Michael Jordan. So you go to the comments, and a lot of people be like, no, he never said that. But it's like not an important story. It's not, but it is still false. That needs to be outlawed. Like that needs to be against the law, or at least that social media companies need to say, if you're creating this kind of nonsense, we need to delete their accounts. Is that too much? Too harsh?
Well, they depend upon it. So I went on Facebook. I recommends all these people I don't know or people I would never associate with, or vice versa. For some reason, I accidentally clicked on my recommended friends. It was, and it was a full box of nothing but slop faces. Completely made up AI faces with nothing behind it. It's just, it's insidious everywhere. So Facebook is now, the videos on Facebook, high percentage of them are slop. It's becoming more and more useless there.
Is there a way to police it? Should they police it?
Yes, there are ways to get some part of it, just like they've gone after spam over the years. Should they? Sure. Are they ever going to win? No. Do they care to? I don't think so. I think it's slopland now. And a lot of the slop is to them fun. So the good news here is things like actual podcasters sitting in front of you, and you can tell that really is Pete, because if it were made up Pete, he'd have hair.
That is for sure. At least a slick hat. Maybe we should host a show called Slopland, where every week we look at the sloppiest of slop.
Whew. That'd be rough duty.
He can't do it.
No, I can't do it.
All right, I got to ask you about another big story. This one deals with AI, which you talk about all the time.
Incessantly, yes.
And, of course, the company's name is Anthropic, and they're dealing with the Department of Defense. And our worst nightmares about what AI could do have to do with surveillance and actually killing machines, robotic killing machines that aren't controlled by humans. And my understanding is the Department of Defense is insisting that this AI company, Anthropic, give them the technology and the permission to use it the ways that they ethically don't approve. Not only them, but every AI company, at least the big ones, the well-funded ones, also don't want to give the U.S. Department of Defense or any other military this functionality. How did I do at summarizing that conflict or story? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, you did very well. The Anthropic and Anthropic has met with Hegseth, the Department of War, and came away and said, no, we're not going to agree. And Hegseth has threatened Anthropic with putting them on the ultimate cootie list, such that not only would the Department of Defense not use them, but anyone who does use Anthropic would be considered dangerous. And the U.S. government wouldn't deal with them then, so it would kill Anthropic, basically, out of Hegseth's macho. There's a lot of sane voices, including former Department of Defense people, voices who are saying, hold on. Does Anthropic have some right to say how its product is used? Yes. Does the Department of Defense have some considerable interest in not being restricted? Yes. But the ground truth here is LLMs aren't reliable to do your lunch menu. They could feed you arsenic because they hallucinate. They're not ready to operate autonomously at tasks, let alone the autonomous task of killing people.
LLM stands for
large language model, so ChatGPT, et cetera. And then in terms of surveillance, the U.S. Department of Defense should not be surveilling U.S. citizens in this country. It's unconstitutional. It's posse comitatus. It's them having taken on a police role. So at that level, regardless of whether it's Anthropic, regardless of whether they have any rules, this shouldn't even be in the agenda here. Now it gets more complicated because in an exclusive in the Wall Street Journal, Sam Altman from the ever more desperate OpenAI is on the one hand saying, I want to come in and I want to be a peacemaker here, acting a little bit like Trump going for his Nobel Prize, but also saying that he wants to do a deal with the government so they can use his stuff. And he's saying he wants them to do the same rules that Anthropic has, but it gets all the more complicated now. There needs to be an off-ramp here because Anthropic, and I'm weirded out by Anthropic in this sense. I can't figure out what I think of them. On the one hand, they're part of the AGI, artificial general intelligence. We can build the better human brain and we can then destroy the world cult. They also, their definition of safety is that we're not going to destroy the whole world because we're so powerful we could. I don't buy all that bullshit. On the other hand, Anthropic does try to operate according to principles. Anthropic's, I'm not a coder, but those who do code say it's just unfriggin' believable what it can do. It's being very strategic and creative. It's scary in various industries because it's showing what it can do, what its software can do in place of some people, and you can look at that two ways. So on the one hand, it and Google to me are the two smartest AI companies out there. On the other hand, I think they're a little weird about some of their stuff. So when they come to a conflict like this, I mean, versus Hegseth, it's not hard to see who you vote for. You vote for whoever's against Hegseth. But it's a complicated thing that's a needless fight. And it could be very dangerous where it lands. It could destroy Anthropic.
God forbid.
Yeah, actually. And even though, we all have some doubts about AI. I mean, I'm fascinated by AI. I think it does amazing things. I think it's being overblown to a considerable extent. I'm on 2 AI podcasts, so I'm interested in the topic. So I understand that I'm not trying to say that it's too big to fail in that sense, but it's a terrible precedent. Right. And supposedly, now cue Joe Scarborough. This isn't the conservatives that I knew. They wouldn't have interfered with companies like this.
Those conservatives are gone, or at least they're out of power almost entirely, because those conservative ideology no longer matters. It's a kind of a fascist ideology, or it's just a power ideology, which is fascism, which is we have to win, including cheating to win and rigging everything so that we can have our people in the right places. That's the ideology that Republicans now hold overwhelmingly, and brings me to these reporting that, believe it or not, I guess was originally from the Washington Post about what the administration is trying to do in November to make sure that they win the elections, and what they were doing in Atlanta, what the feds were doing in Atlanta, and how they're going to blame the 2020 loss, which he did lose. Obviously, they're going to say that he won and China interfered or some nonsense. What do you think about that story, and what do you think about where we are right now and where we need to be by November? And I think that when you try to make it harder for people to vote, it is going to bring out more people than ever before. It's kind of going to backfire the way that so many of the other policies and choices that they have made backfired. It looks scary. It's not unlike when they got rid of Kimmel. It's not unlike when they arrested Don Lemon. It looks really bad when it happens. It's not unlike what happened in Minneapolis. It's terrible. People died. People have lost their jobs. It's not unlike what they tried to do when they tried to silence people's speech over Charlie Kirk back to Kimmel. It all is bad, and there are consequences, and there is real damage. But it backfires. And I think that's what's going to happen with the midterm elections. And they're going to do everything they can to intimidate people. They're going to do everything they can to rig it. But there's going to be so many people coming out to vote that they can't win. What do you think?
From your lips to God's ears, that's a wonderfully optimistic view, actually, that will come through. And I think that you could be right. For all the reasons you said. I think it could draw more people out to vote. I think that it could mobilize and energize us good guys. However, he has powers now that reach beyond that. And he has his own personal Gestapo, and he can use them to do more than just intimidate voters, but destroy ballots. He can use the post office in ways I don't think we've fully anticipated. He has the Supreme Court that, yes, sure, they slap them around on tariffs, but that's because they value dividends more than they value humans and democracy. There's too many other levers here that put us at danger. If it's all about him trying to keep people from voting and they vote in greater numbers anyway, then yes, hallelujah. But I fear what else could happen. Yeah. And the Washington Post story, which was well reported and really important and a big break, but the Washington Post itself downplayed it. Their headline was, Trump, seeking executive power over elections, is urged to declare emergency. That sounds like some normal bureaucrat is saying, oh, there's problems in the elections, and so I'm going to urge you, Mr. President, to use your power to this. Right. No, this is authoritarianism. Yeah. This is the Reichstag fire. This is them trying to take over once and for all and eliminate voting as the key power and institution in democracy. And the Post soft pedals it, because that's the Post today. It finally I saw it get picked up on MS Now. It's finally being talked about out there. It's finally out there. But it's Project 2025 become real, very real.
Right. Before I let you go, got to ask you just for your take on the developing biggest story for months now, maybe, the Epstein files. The latest is, as I mentioned, that there's a whole bunch of pages missing. Those pages have to do with accusations against Trump himself by a 12 or 13-year-old girl, if I've got that right. And I don't think this is going anywhere. And I think it's getting worse. It's getting worse for the administration. We're finding files and pictures that they're hiding. They brought Hillary Clinton up, and they look terrible because, A, they don't let her testify in public, and B, what came out of it was embarrassing for them because nothing came out of it. Today it's Bill Clinton. What do you think of this story that just keeps not dripping, but really overflowing into our newsfeed and into our lives?
I think it's nationally embarrassing that England and France and Switzerland with the World Economic Forum and other countries are acting on the Epstein file revelations, and we're not doing crap. The cover-up here continues.
Yeah.
There are another 3 million documents. God knows what's in them. One thing, this story that's not getting much coverage is that The Guardian says they have seen the missing 3 memos.
I had not heard this.
That describe the interviews. And like, as so often in these cases, the victim / witness is going to have complicating factors. As this one does. The notes, I'm reading from The Guardian here, the notes describe how the woman came forward to tell agents she recognized Epstein from a photo sent by a childhood friend, only the first, and so on and so forth. The allegations had not been verified. The FBI never brought charges related to her claims, which at times, says The Guardian, appear outlandish. There's some disagreement when she said she met him and how she said she met him, and Epstein's brother says, well, he wasn't really there then. You know, who knows? It's she said, he said. What she claimed happened, who knows? But the issue is, don't we know, and as Americans, we know better than anything else, that it ain't the details, it's the cover-up. So whether or not these 3 documents are credible in the long run, whether they would have resulted in further investigation and prosecution, may be irrelevant in the sense that what mattered is they were hidden. Are they, but you go back, does it matter anymore?
Right. That's
how many missing Rosemary Woods, how many missing minutes was it in the tape? I can't remember. 9 minutes. Do you even know what I'm talking about? You know who Rosemary Woods is?
No, I don't.
Nixon's secretary who supposedly reached this way and that way and erased, how many missing minutes was it? 18.5 minute gap in the Watergate tapes, in the White House tapes. And that led to Nixon's downfall.
We're not there.
We're not there. And I think if this document comes out and Trump is in fact accused of raping a teenager, I don't think that'll get rid of him. What would
he said he could do it. He said he could do it and get away with it on tape, and he still got elected.
Is there just a parlor game here? Because the time was, if we had tape of him using the N-word, that'd be that. The tape of him grabbing women's genitals, that'd be that. No, it's not that. Can you imagine anything that would cause Trump to have to leave office?
Well, what would it mean? What it would mean would be that Republicans in the Senate and the House would vote to remove him, or a 25th Amendment removal, right? But there's things short of that. And I'll be optimistic and cling to those, which is so many of these right-wing bro podcasters who helped him get elected have turned against him. He's lost a tremendous amount of influence, support, enthusiasm, momentum, and you need that. And he's had that, and he's lost it. And I think that matters. I think it matters a lot for a number of reasons in terms of what he wants to get done, what he can get done. He's going to be a lame duck and may or may not get removed from office as a result of something that came out. I highly doubt it. But after January 6th, too, which we didn't mention. But it remains to be seen. And if they think that he is going to be holding them back, which he is, Republicans are losing everywhere and Democrats are winning everywhere in traditional Republican strongholds. That matters. I think it matters. And it matters enough. Let me put it this way. There's an outcome that we can measure. And that is Democrats are likely to win back the House, and they could potentially win back the Senate. And that would matter a great, great deal. And so I think that needs to be worked for, and we need to do everything we can to make sure that happens.
Do you think that if, presuming, knock wood, light a candle, cross fingers, we at least win back the House, should the House impeach him again?
Absolutely.
Will they?
Yes.
Okay.
Also think, ask me who the 2028 nominee is going to be. I'm never wrong on these predictions. I predicted that the Republicans would nominate Mike Pompeo, and yes, he didn't run, but I can still tell you why I was right about that. I won't go into it. I do believe that the nominee for 2028 will be Georgia Senator Jon Ossoff. He will win the nomination, and Democrats will nominate Jon Ossoff.
Whoa.
What do you think of that?
What
do you think of that?
We'll bring that back to haunt you.
Who do you got?
See, I hate. I know.
I'm saving
because
it for
I rail
the end.
against journalists predicting stuff. It's not their job to predict.
It's just a fun thing to do at the end of our talk. It's if you and I weren't.
Pisses me off.
I know, and be a hypocrite. What do you got?
I got a weird one from left field. Did you see the current Wired cover?
No.
Since you are a woke man of sensible, so let's look at. See if I can find it for you real quick.
Is it Gavin?
So if you go to news.google and search for Wired covers, you'll see Wired cover on text "gay mafia ignites controversy." See if you can see it.
Did you put it in the chat there?
I did not. I don't have to email. I'm on a different computer, so I'll have to email it to you. Hold on.
Wired gay mafia.
Peter Dominic.
I'll find it before you. Inside the gay tech mafia, the cover.
Yeah. Did you see it?
I see a picture at that article of a naked man, almost naked man, holding a building.
So there's two hands reaching out to from men's zippers.
Okay.
To shake hands.
Oh.
To illustrate a gay tech mafia.
I see it now. Yeah. Okay. Oh God, that's
what do you think
hilarious image. What is it supposed to mean? I'm going to share it with everybody.
It's gay men crossing streams for power, I guess is what it's trying to say. But why they would mark gay men by their penises rather than every damned straight man who's in charge of every institution in the world. I found it terrible judgment.
Inside the gay tech mafia, yeah, that seems offensive.
Okay, I wanted to see because I haven't heard anybody talking about it, and I thought you're a woke guy. You'll.
I mean, the way that you frame it, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, why is that? That could be the picture of every deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Every deal made in any industry in any powerful corner of the world.
Larry Ellison and David Zaslav. Yeah, right there.
There you go. Yeah. All right. There he goes. Well, I'm so glad to see you. I'm so glad you're feeling better. Great to catch up with you as always. I hope everybody goes and supports Jeff Jarvis right now. Buzz Machine. Get all the books. Support him on all the social media. Follow him right now. Where are you mostly posting? Blue Sky is where I see you.
Blue Sky mostly. Yeah. I like Blue Sky.
Check him out there. He's on a billion other podcasts, and he'll let you know. Thank you.
Podcast slut.
I love it. You were in a hospital bed podcasting, I believe.
I did. I meant to. So I'm on this podcast called Intelligent Machines. And I got a guest on the show who I wanted to meet, and it was my fault he was on there. And so I wanted to just say to him hello to him before the show, and then the person who was supposed to substitute for me couldn't. They had an emergency. So yes, in my hospital gown,
you had an emergency too.
I did, but I have a podcast Uber alles, man.
Podcast whoer, Jeff Jarvis.
The podcast must go on.
We love that spirit, and we're so happy that you joined me today. Thanks for watching. All right, that's it. That's my conversation with Jeff Jarvis. Hopefully you appreciated the roundup of clips and headlines and responses, all related to the invasion and war of choice between the U.S. and Israel against the Iranians and their horrible regime that nobody is sad that is gone, but who will replace them? You know, that is a question that really is important. Will it be somebody worse, the Iranian people and the rest of the world? Will it just be chaos? What happens? We'll be paying close attention. I'll do my best to bring you as many points of view and experts on the issue as I can. And I so appreciate you tuning in here, pressing play, subscribing to the podcast for free, and even more importantly, those who have paid subscriptions, which come with all kinds of great benefits and includes having friends everywhere. If you get friends everywhere, if you're a member of the stand-up community. Happy birthday to our friend John Carroll, by the way. Should have mentioned that at the top. I'll remind you. I'll say it again at the top of tomorrow's show. I'll try to remember. I'm writing it in a Post-it note right here so I don't forget. And go wish John Carroll a happy birthday. He writes and performs all the music here. He's a legendary singer-songwriter. We're so lucky to have him to be in his world. How about that? All right, take it away, Johnny. Happy birthday. Talk to you tomorrow, folks.
You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got off of your fence, even if it ain't a very friendly audience. Well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense, and you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town, just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of a stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. Alright, we got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.